Hello.
This one's a great one, man. I
I
feel
know,
like
I can't wait.
we profiled the
Yeah.
perfect guest.
Yeah.
Len,
Let's-
how you doing today, man?
Great. I've been profiled for other things before, but this seems it could be a better one.
This might be the first time for this one, huh?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
when it's so often like, we're listed on whatever all those podcast host things are, and the number of pitches we get where it's like, a personal trainer will reach out and he's like, I got some thoughts on, ab wheel or something, and we're like, that's great, man. Give us something we can sink our teeth into, and here you come with epigenetics and cannabinoid systems and everything that we're all about. So, man, Len, why don't we ask you how you got here? What's going on? How'd you tee it up to end up on our show?
The culmination of your life's work is definitely coming.
You're ready for life's journey, like in minutes.
Yeah, man, do it.
So I was I was actually born in Lithuania. So I'm an immigrant. I came to this country when I was like 6 years old, my parents. And I was a kid and sat in class, and the teacher would call me, and my mind would be elsewhere. And then I became disruptive because I wasn't interested, and I got diagnosed with ADD when I was in my teens. And they put me on prescription medication. I can't say it didn't work. It depends how you define work. Like, it allowed me to focus, but it took away, I guess, my spirit, my sense of self, any connection to my emotional self. And I was hanging out with these kids before school, and they were like the cool kids. They would ask me if I want to smoke a cigarette with them. I was like, yeah, man, I'm dabbling in cigarettes. Sure. It's like 8th grade or some of that. So they had one cigarette. I didn't question the fact they had one. So they started passing around a cigarette. It got to me. I took a drag. It didn't taste like what a cigarette tasted like. So I took another one, maybe coughed, I don't remember. And they're laughing at me. I'm like, what? And they put cannabis in the cigarette. So I was like, all right. So that was my first time. I went back to class, and the windows that are open in my head sort of narrowed, and I could focus. So cannabis became my medicine. I never told people it was medicine per se, but I stopped taking prescription medication and just started consuming cannabis. My parents would catch me once in a while. They would try to punish me and all that stuff. And I had an agreement with my dad one time that, this is my medicine. I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's it. And he's like, as long as don't bring it in my house. I'm okay. So I was out. I fake ID when I was a kid. So I was out clubbing somewhere. I came home, and we went to a fishing trip, like 4 o'clock in the morning. Went fishing, and I slept half the day. And I wake up. My parents are sitting there. Like, I had a little pouch that was in my car underneath the seat. They have that pouch, and it's on their kitchen table. And my weed, my bowl, whatever, like nothing major was in there. And like, what are we going to do with you? Long story, a little bit longer. They ended up calling the cops and try to have me arrested.
Whoa. It's aggressive.
Yeah. And when the cops came, they threw out my weed. They're like, oh, we can take you in. I'm like, all right, under 28 grams, misdemeanor, you can do whatever you want. It's fine. I'm a minor anyway. And so the one female, it's 2 female cops. And one of them was like, if it was my son, I'd kick him to the curb. So my dad, when they left, they said, you got 5 minutes, pack a bag. And my dad literally kicked me out the door. So the irony of this is my parents both consume products my company has patents on now. And my dad's very proud. And I'm big, all the people that need health-related things, they come to me. So kind of came full circle.
How long, just out of curiosity, how long did that relationship take to morph, right? I mean, like, that seems like quite a right to left,
It's cold water on me or something like that, is that kind of stuff. So at one point, I had a lot of therapy, personal development, and I let that stuff go. And I basically said that I'm not going to allow him to have that power over me. So by me letting that go, and he apologized, and we had, a conversation about it many times. And he just doesn't like the fact he compliments me and my parenting skills. My daughter's 20 now at Berkeley. And he's like, yeah, you're such a good dad. I'm like, I just do the opposite of what you did with me. He
Wow.
doesn't like. He does not like that.
Yeah, that stings a little.
That's how you get Thanksgiving dinner going, right? Like instead
Exactly.
of saying a prayer, you're like, just would like to say, Dad.
Exactly.
Thanks for
exactly.
teaching me everything not to do.
You know what though? And here's the, interesting thing. That relationship was what it was, but like, would you even be where you're at if you hadn't had that adversity component to like move? You know what I mean? Like, and I think we all have like a story like this. It might be your sounds like it was fairly intense, but I think a lot of people have this sort of like, yeah, this wasn't ideal, but look what it did. It made me this.
I think that our journeys are never a straight line. And, I'm a big believer that a lot of things that are happening in our life are there for us to reach, but it depends the door that we choose or the road that we choose to take. So if that didn't happen, if my ex-wife wasn't an actress, if she wasn't like pushing me to move to LA, I'd probably still be in Philly. If she wasn't doing what she was doing, I probably would be married and wouldn't be doing this. So there's a lot of if those,
there's a lot of if else statements in there.
if it happened. But the thing is that you choose things, and then sometimes things happen to you. And you're absolutely right, Matt, that if that didn't happen, if I wasn't homeless, if I didn't get a job at Tower Records because I used to love buying, music and cassettes, and I wouldn't have been exposed to the Cannabis Action Network. I wouldn't have been an activist. And probably wouldn't be here today. So the choices that you make are today will open up doors for you in the future, I think.
And I think that's one of the cool things about people that come on this show a lot is we see a recurring theme here. And you certainly are like an exemplary version of that, where people are like, hey, man, I've got this list of ingredients over here, and I need to express this other thing. And you just find a way to kind of marry those two things, right? And I think it's very cool because we get really cool people like you to come and talk about some weird shit like epigenetics and such. Like,
and weed, man.
You want to know something funny, man? I just did this before you got on. I took an epigenetics class from Coursera in 2013. And I thought
that was the same time I was listening to an audio version of a book on epigenetics.
And I got really into it for like it was like an 8-week, 12-week class. I don't even know, like whatever it was, but I took it only because I was like, I wanted to learn more about this. And it was truly fascinating. Then I did absolutely nothing with that information until today.
Well, I just thought Waddington's Landscape was going to be a great name for like a college band.
Yeah, totally.
I think this whole thing with genetics and epigenetics and it's really about personalization and precision health and wellness. And for me, like when I was a kid, my grandfather was a really large man and was married to my grandmother, who was a really small woman. He had a stroke, and he proceeded to have so many health issues, and he stopped being able to walk really well and stopped speaking. And I have this image of my mom, my grandmother, sitting with like bags of pills and calling doctors because they were wrong doses and they were have interactions. So I was scared of prescription medication. So all my life, like I have this fear that somebody's going to give me something, and this whole cookie cutter approach, take 2 of these. And well, why am I taking 2? Why am I not taking 4? Why am I not taking 1? Why is Matt and Tom and Len, why are we all being treated the same way? We're not. We're all different. I mean, 99% of us, 99.9 is the same, but it's genetic predispositions that you can actually express epigenetically makes us different. So I never understood why we're being treated like that from a medical professional standpoint. I mean, I do now because of insurance. It's like they make more money by seeing you for 15 minutes than they do by seeing you for an hour, and it's like sort of the same kind of thing. But it really illuminated in the cannabis space for me. So in my journey, I was the president of the Cannabis Action Network, so I was an activist to try to fight for legalization back in the early 90s. And then I still try to pursue that. But in Pennsylvania, it wasn't legal until last few years. But and I held a rally at Independence Hall, all those other things. But then I had to go. My ex-wife was like, "You have to get a real job." So I went corporate. I know it's hard to, for those of you who can see me, I have no hair, but I used to have long hair and wear like big earrings and just be, that guy who I may have had some tattoos back then too as a kid. But I went to work for Price Waterhouse before it was PwC, so I had to put my hair in a ponytail, take out my earrings, wear like the suit and tie, and wear a mask for many years. And I proceeded to do that, work in venture capital, quit all that, went into real estate, and I was a commercial real estate broker and managing director of Keller Williams Commercial. And that when I moved to LA and I was sitting in an office, I was trying to make a decision what I wanted to do. And I was like thinking, I really don't want to do real estate because it was 2009, the real estate market was just awful. And I was just, selling non-performing notes. It was hard. It's like, it's not really fulfilling. I'm just making wealthy people more money. So what do I like to do? Well, cannabis, music. How can I get more involved in that? And these guys came in and try to open what they were saying to the real estate agent, an alternative pharmacy. The guy brought me over. He's like, I don't know what these guys want, man. They're all cryptic. You talk to them.
Yeah, so they're all cryptic. Like, they're shady as fuck. Yeah.
So I was like, what do you guys want? They're like, yeah. I'm like, dispensary. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. It's Prop 215, SB 420. And where's your paperwork? Like, we don't know. I'm like, you don't have anything? They're like, no, they don't know nothing. So I helped them and they offered me a partnership. So we ended up partnering. We named the dispensary Kush Kingdom, and we ended up having 4 more under the same umbrella.
Wow.
But the thing that I started seeing is 2 people will consume the same chemical variety of cannabis and have a complete different experience. And that's sort of like my ADD is either I multitask or I can hyper focus on something when super stimulating. And this was just my mission. And I was like digging and I found a video by this guy named Kevin McKernan. He claimed to be at the time the first person to genetically sequence the plant. So I reached out to him and anyway, started working as a consultant for the company that he was the chief science officer called Medicinal Genomics. So my job was to travel around the US, meet cultivators, get plant material, bring it to my lab, extract the DNA, sequence it, and we started the first genetic library of cultivars and chemovars, like chemical varieties of cannabis, and put that on the blockchain for chain of custody. And the reason why this is interesting is because we name these different strains or whatever we want, Alaskan Thunderfuck or Blue Dream. It doesn't mean shit. Because if I look at the genetics of the plant, so I'll give you an example, 5 Blue Dreams, I can get them from 5 different growers and I can genetically sequence it. I can say like 2 of them are possibly Blue Dream. They have the profile. 2 other ones have Blue Dream crossed into them as a hybrid. And the 5th one, not even close. They just slap a name on it. So the names of these things don't matter. We have the genetics of the plant and they can kind of, let us know what kind of experience we may have with the plant if we marry that together with our own genetics. So the parent company of that medicinal genomics was called Cortigen Life Sciences, and they did what's called pharmacogenomics testing. So the study of how drugs affect individual bodies, drug-to-drug interactions, and all that stuff. So I got really into human genetics, and I had a light bulb moment one day. It was like, we have human genetics here, we have plant genetics here. Let's bring those 2 together to help guide people to a personalized experience so they can avoid a possible adverse event. And they had no interest in it. They wanted to focus on the plant. So I got lucky, got some sciencey, much smarter people than me together and launched EndoDNA in 2017. And that was our mission. Like when I met with the FDA, he said, what's the purpose of your test? He said to help people either avoid or mitigate a possible adverse event. So I was never like trying to find what's going to get you the highest or whatever it is. It was all about, let's see where Len's shelf is in a dispensary. Like I know what is right for me and what I need to avoid. And this is what we should do, in everything that we do for health and wellness. We should know what works better for us. How do we metabolize different things? What are we predisposed to? Because I always thought about your genome as sort of your life's GPS unit. Like, you know, once you have your whole genome, you know where your potholes are in your own road. But if you don't know that, you're going to be stepping in the same potholes all the time or driving in those traffic jams. So by doing that, you can make lifestyle choices to epigenetically control the expression of some of those predispositions. And that's the overall journey.
And when we've talked to a bunch of people on this show, actually, that genetic profiling has like come in as a baseline requirement for stuff that they do. A couple of these concierge docs, especially. But I mean, Tom and I both did the 23andMe things and kept our raw data, and I've sent mine off to a whole bunch of places because I'm like, well, yeah, I should know this. Oh, I want to find this out, or I want to, you know, I think what would be great is, we're getting there, but I'd love to have that sort of bring the mountain to Moses, like have like a one person that would actually kind of facilitate all that stuff. And we're getting closer, but we don't really have like a big market yet for that. And it's a shame because I would make every decision on that if it was available. Like, well, from like shampoo onward.
Well, you know one of the reasons why we don't is because first of all, you can upload your 23andMe to our platform as well, and we'll give you an endocannabinoid system test or any one of them. I think one of the biggest challenges with a lot of these tests are, I call the now so what. You find something out about your genetic predisposition. So what? Okay, and what do I do about that? So by bookending the experience with a protocol, our customers are healthcare professionals. So we use machine learning to help healthcare professionals create personalized treatment plans for people based on their genetic and epigenetic expression. So we'll do your biological age at baseline, we'll do your genome, and the platform will make a suggested protocol, a treatment plan for the healthcare professional. So now they can say, all right, based on your genetic, and this is what I recommend. And then we actually measure how well that's working for people. So we'll come back and look at the methyl group, see if there's any changes there. So there's epigenetic expression. We'll look at blood markers. We look at biomarkers. We look at your wearable device data. Everything goes to the cloud. And before, it was very cumbersome to look at all the information because we're in the middle. We've done 10 clinical studies. We're published on PubMed, but you have to physically go in and analyze data. With AI, machine learning, it's quick. It's almost instantaneous. So as you're getting data back, the AI starts making predictions and predictive inferences. So they can say, Matt, there's 100 people who are similar to you that have taken this protocol and showed that it was efficacious. Now this is the recommendation. And if for some reason something for you doesn't work the same way, the AI will learn better and better and better. So we're going to get to a point where, our next iteration with a new patent, you're going to be able to communicate with your DNA. And that's where our next platform is. You're going to ask your DNA, show me all of Tom's inflammatory markers. Cross-reference them with any metabolic markers. Also look at the supplements that Tom has. See if there's any interactions and give him a personalized treatment protocol.
So Len, that's super sexy. Also, I want to congratulate you. You're the first guest to mention AI before Matt or I.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do I win? Do I win?
I don't know. We were going to have a buzzer that said AI. We just never did that.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Yes.
So I own a development company outside of this, and we've been making tech for 25 years. And as you might imagine, somebody in my seat, AI came on the scene pretty hard, disproportionate to the general population because I had a bunch of clients. So like, what are we doing with this new thing? Right. So we've been sort of like, as early as you can have been involved with it, we have been, and it's been very fun to see what's happened in 25 months since the world found out about Gen AI. Like we have come in 25 months, like what do you think? 50, 60 years in regular people term, 70 years? I don't know, like in 24 months.
Every day, it's going to accelerate even quicker.
And that's where it's like, now how long is it till meaningful things start happening? Because the curve is at such a steep pitch right now that the difference between today and tomorrow could mean a lot, right?
Yeah. Model Ts to rocket ships.
Yeah, I mean,
but Len, I think you hit the main problem on the head with all the data, right? That's so what thing. The number of times we talk to people, and I mean, like if you use the word biohacker, how many people have spreadsheets and fucking Aura Ring data, and what are you going to do with it? Well, nothing. It just says I slept like shit, you know? But now if you can quantify that and do something usable, something that enhances your life even more, I mean, that's the holy grail right there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just going to read this because I don't remember. We just got a new patent. I was waiting for this for a while. So it's the name of the title of the invention is machine learning based efficacy predictions based on genetic and biometric information. So that's exactly what we want to do as the future is machine learning. It's efficacy predictions. So your AI is going to start predicting what will work for you possibly based on data they receive from everybody else. And it's going to change those based on new feedback. So it's constantly a living, breathing organism that changes with feedback. The more people that use it, the better it gets. The more doctors that use it, the better it gets. And it offsets this whole notion of one size fits all. And one of the things that people always told me, like, it's not scalable. Like if you're we have 8 patents and different formulations with cannabis, it's not scalable because I have to have a compounding pharmacist that it makes one for Tom, makes one for Matt. It doesn't have to work like that because with machine learning, with AI, you can put people in buckets. And you can say, all right, this is the Matt bucket, and there's a bunch of people that are similar to that, and there's a Tom bucket. So you don't have to be individualized, but you can be personalized. And maybe at some point, I was at this conference and there was this company that's actually doing this. I think they're an Israeli company. It was really cool. You guys know about nanobots and all that stuff, but they also create 3D printed medication and supplements that are specific to the individual. So all of your medication is going to be in one capsule. So you can take one that's specifically created for you with a 3D printer that checks all the interactions and all that stuff, and you can just take this person's
unbelievable.
That's insane. Yeah, that sounds.
I mean, I love that though because, like, when they say like the number one thing that's contributed more to lifespan than anything else was indoor plumbing, right? Like this one thing that makes you not sit in your own shit, which seems ridiculous now, but like imagine before this was invented, like
everything, washing your hands, all of it.
Yeah. But here's my point. I think when we look back on this time, the before and after of this time, it's going to be as stark as like indoor plumbing, right? People are going to be like, well, of course.
What do you mean, Dad? You took 20 pills and you didn't know what they were doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Or your doctor. It's funny because my daughter had to get this thing signed from the doctor that she had a physical, whatever, for school. And I remember it was going to the doctor. And it's like the cookie cutter thing. They usually sign it, but like for insurance purposes, he needed to see her. So he's like, checking the glands. Let me listen to your heart. And he's about to break out the mallet. I'm like, are you freaking serious? You're going to do the mallet?
He's got to check a box. Yeah. He's got to check a box.
Checking the boxes. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So I think and I agree with you, Matt. There's been several different things, inventions and that are, changed the course of the world. Probably the car, the airplane, the internet, and this is going to be something we're going to look back at and say, it's totally changed everything. The way we do everything, the way we engage with our health and wellness, the way we get entertainment, everything, so
yeah.
Who knows?
I work with a quantum computer company right now, and they obviously the quantum machine is a real candidate for the solution long term to privacy and encryption and whatnot, because like there's nobody beating that, right? Like that would be bulletproof in every possible way. And the whole industry is trying to figure that out right now. But like when I look at this sort of up level from sitting on top of all that, I say, wow, you're going to have 3D printed medication that's on a blockchain, that's immutable, that's quantum encrypted, and all powered by a machine learning system built entirely for just one person. And like, that's not even like science fiction based on ingredients we have on Earth right now today.
Like absolutely agreed. I would take it a step further. I would say that right now, and I'm not talking about Western, Eastern medicine. Right now, we're extremely reactionary to treating conditions. So, in the US especially, I tore my meniscus. I had some injuries, and I had like 4 different doctors. I keep going to surgeons. Surgery. You have pain? Let me stick you with a needle, give her your pain. And I was trying to explain to the doctor that, pain is an indicator. Like, you have to listen to your body. If I'm numbing the pain and use it as an analgesic, I can hurt myself more. Like, if my knee hurts and you're going to stick a needle in there and you're going to numb the pain, well, I'm going to go skating or skiing or some of that. I can tear it more than that. So it never made sense to me to alleviate the pain. But the idea of having preventative healthcare, like understanding what we're predisposed to. I was privy to sit in on a meeting with the insurance companies and some of the payers, like the Blue Cross, the Aetnas, and all that stuff. And their biggest challenge, what they were discussing, was the rise of diabetes. It's sort of, this is their biggest mandate. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, there's many reasons why, but we can go into that. But I was like sitting there patiently waiting. I'm like, maybe they're going to talk about, prevention of diabetes. No, their biggest thing was, how do we reduce the cost of insulin? How do we make it so affordable that anybody can get insulin? And I was just like, waiting for my turn. I said, well, that's great. That's already expressing diabetes. And there's childhood diabetes, so I understand. But what about creating programs to prevent diabetes? What about changing the way we consume our foods? What about making foods real food, not stuff that's not even food that we're calling food? What are you guys doing for preventive programs? And they started like stumbling and saying, we have reimbursement gym memberships and we have educational programs. It's not a business for them. Why would they prevent something that they're actually saying how many millions more of insulin we can sell to people that need it? So it doesn't make fiscal sense for them to do that.
You know what, Len? And you're saying something that sounds like so cutting edge. Ben Franklin used to say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And we're acting like and look, man, you're preaching to the choir. I'm an acupuncturist. I've been that way for 24 years now. But prevention is not making them the money. And that's where they get hurt. That's where they get upset.
Yeah, I think there's a way to collaborate with pharma. I think Peter Attia talked about this at A4M when I was there, but we had a brief conversation. He was talking about reversing Medicare, like making Medicare available for everybody, then taking it away at 60 or whenever you get Medicare. And the people that actually did everything that prevented that, you have less of a burden on the healthcare system. And I said, that's going to be very difficult because working with the government, you're not going to flip anything around. I said, why don't you work with insurance companies and actually create reductions in premiums for following a preventative protocol? Like,
right.
I said, what about like dentists, right? So if I have a preventative protocol, it means I have to get my teeth cleaned annually, biannually, whatever it is. Why don't we have that for healthcare? So you have to get your physical once a year. You have to take this. You have to take that. These are all preventative measures you can take. Or you have to, look at acupuncture. Look at all these different other modalities that'll help prevent the expression of that. And if they're doing it, it's like a checklist. You're getting 10% off of your insurance every single time you follow through. I mean, Everybody wins in that,
But that would be too rational. That would be too logical, and no one's ever going to do that. Yeah.
Well, there's too much money moving around too quickly, right? So, look, man, Western medicine is great when you're on your deathbed, but everything before that, it's lacking quite a bit, right? And specifically with type 2 diabetes, right? This is all lifestyle. This is all how we move, what we eat, what we put into our body. And we know it, man. I was at a box store today. I'm not going to mention which one. And when me and my wife left, I go, we were the smallest 2 people in that entire store. And I'm like 225 right now.
Yeah.
Like, and like I'm not a small dude.
Shop on the outer edges of your supermarket and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But this is the kind of thing we're talking about. By understanding your genome, you even understand if you have it's not only the genome, it's like knowing everything about yourself. So your microbiome. One of the things I found out when I did my microbiome, that bell peppers are inflammatory for me. Like, that's healthy food. That's healthy source of vitamins. How would I know that? No, I'm eating stuff with bell peppers in it, and sort of my stomach feels inflamed. I don't know why, but I haven't. There's something in my enzymes that are creating that. So you have to learn about yourself first, and then with AI, look, food is medicine. That's the first place that you look at on epigenetic expression. Your lifestyle can determine how you turn those switches on and off. Food, huge. Also, supplements. What are we lacking? Supplement with those things. Then exposure, pesticides, heavy metals, all these other things, they control epigenetic expression. And the other thing that people forget to think about is our own neurochemistry. So if I'm predisposed to stress reactivity, and I have a bunch of cortisol that I'm on fight or flight, I'm constantly pumping cortisol. Well, that expression of cortisol, it's my bloodstream can actually express epigenetic responses as well. So all those things combined can create, a personalized healthcare regimen for you, preventative.
And it's funny that you mentioned bell peppers, because I took one of those online food allergy tests, and it came back bell peppers were one of them.
It's a nightshade, guys.
And
it's a nightshade.
But almonds and cashews were as well. And I used to make this nut mix where I'd put all these random nuts in there. Two of my favorite ones were almonds and cashews. And I stopped doing that on the next round. And I realized that every time I ate my old version, the roof of my mouth had like a small vibration on it that I just kind of wrote off. Vibration completely gone when I got rid of it. Now with hindsight, I'm like, it was the fucking cashews and the damn almonds. But like you said, it's not like I was going into anaphylactic shock when I ate a cashew. I just had this annoying little buzz in my mouth. So who gives a shit? But I didn't know it was even that. But easy to fix. It's cheaper too, man. That nut mix costs a little less.
Yeah, stop eating it and learn about it. It's funny you bring up, so like, for instance, people, gluten and lactose and gluten. Okay, there are people that have celiac disease. It's real. They really have, a gluten allergy, basically. But you do have people that have a predisposition to gluten sensitivity. And it has to do with a series of genes called cytochrome P450. The CYP genes create enzymes that help us metabolize different things. So there's a specific one for gluten. There's a specific one for lactose. So if you know this about yourself, reduce the consumption of that. But how many people do? How many doctors? You may be surprised. Maybe you're not surprised. I've had
You're talking to a weird, we're a skewed part of the population.
We are very, yeah. I mean,
I've had that test at least 3 times.
and I'm already in my mind wondering how I get you my 23andMe data as fast as humanly possible.
Hold up his company, man. He
said
it. He was like EndoDNA, and I'm there.
I'm like, where?
But doctors don't know. That's the funny thing. I've had so many conversations with doctors, and functional medical professionals are different, integrative medical, but MDs, they just, they study DNA a little bit. It doesn't matter. Your DNA doesn't matter. It's not going to change. It doesn't matter. I'm like, it does matter, because you should know what my potholes are, So I think there's maybe some ego associated with that.
Well, sure.
Learning new things, but I think that doctors, and you're right, Tom, about, Western medicine. We're exceptionally good at diagnostics, and we're going to get even better because of AI, machine learning. And we're really good at surgery, and we're really good at, cutting things off and replacing them and doing these things. Where we're lacking is the Eastern medicine philosophy of let's turn it off before it shows up. And let's work on addressing the root cause. Like, and Tom, you can speak better than me on this topic, but I had a Chinese My doctor is a doctor of Chinese medicine. And every single time that I come to her, she checks my 2 pulses, checks my tongue, yells at me all the time for brushing my tongue. You don't brush your tongue, that shows you everything. And then squeezes this and it's like, oh, well, this is related to your liver, and this is related to your kidney, and this is you have an infection in your bronchioles. How do you know that? You didn't culture it. How do you know that? And this is the whole thing. So this is where the combination of the two make the most sense. And hopefully we'll get to that.
Look, from what I was told, functional medicine has its roots in East Asian medicine, right? So a lot of those concepts, how far back can we go to the source, flip that switch so it never happens, or, nourish yourself so much that disease never has the opportunity to arise.
I like that second one a lot as a general life principle. I'm like, look, I don't really know what I don't know. I'm never going to, I'll research it if it comes on my radar. But in general, the odds are significantly more in my favor if I'm just staying healthy.
Well, it's so crazy. Even when the whole debate, there was a huge meta-analysis about multivitamins. But like people were like, oh, you just have expensive pee. And it's like, no, I might have expensive pee, right? There might be 5 things in there I don't need, but I have more than enough of everything else, which is better than the rest of the population.
It's such a great analogy. I say this all the time too. I just say expensive urine, but I like yours better. It's
you can say piss too. It really depends on the audience,
But the example that I use there all the time is like I'm an ultra rapid metabolizer of CBD. So when people say CBD doesn't work for me, like, well, how much do you take? I take a dropper full of a tincture. I said, well, maybe you're an ultra rapid metabolite, or I take a gummy or so. I don't know.
Maybe
but
that's
I have to take 3. I have to take 3 times that much because I'm an ultra rapid metabolizer. If I want the effect, so when you were talking about those vitamins, maybe I'm an ultra rapid metabolizer of one and not the other. So I'm excreting some of it and not being able to retain. So I have to dose differently.
Well, I mean, even like I like this idea a lot. I mean, because quality of life product that I like, right? It's a, I don't know what you call that, and not a nootropic, but like a longevity kind of product, right? ATP, mitochondria health, I guess, is what they kind of go under. But it's 8 of those horse pills a day, right? Like, so it's a lot of volume of pills, and I always think to myself, I'm like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And to your point, I might not need. There's 200 ingredients on this thing. You know what I mean? Like I got every longevity drug ever invented ever, and in one pill. And I don't know. Maybe I don't need any of that.
8 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like, I don't know if I need all of them, or maybe I just need 2. In this case, I can maybe not take 8 of these pills every day.
I do this. So there are a couple of companies, and I don't want to mention name the company because they should be paying you to advertise on your show.
Sorry,
but
I appreciate that.
But so I take a shitload of supplements too. And there's a couple of companies, what they do is they'll take all of your supplements and they'll create a soft gel or a capsule with all of them in there. So maybe you have to take 5, but you're taking 5 with 14 or 16 different supplements that you normally would take.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of, all of them, that you take a handful of just one.
I'd be in for that all day, every day. I have, my pill container here is comical. It looks like a 95-year-old like invalid.
Yeah, I have one. This is it. That's got my name on it.
That's awesome. See, now that's very cool. I mean, and somewhere now I'm like, damn it, Tom, I don't have enough browsers to open here.
But this is where you need that epigenetic playbook. You need how you metabolize things. You need your gut flora. You need all of that looked at to say, well, maybe I need more of this. Maybe I need less of this, because let's face it, even if I'm pulling my raw data and uploading it somewhere, if it's not that savvy and looking at all those different systems, I'm pretty much still shooting in the dark. I'm just doing it with a bigger gun,
And there's a lot of different uses. So I'll give you guys a couple other examples. I got a call from Dr. Jennifer Berman, who works with us. She's a partner in different things. She's one of the top female sexual health doctors in the country. She was like an Oprah, Dr. Phil, and all the. I think
she want to come on the show.
Sure, yeah. She'd be great, by the way. I think she was in the show Doctors. I think she was co-hosting
Okay.
that show. But anyway, so she called me up. She goes, "Look, I have two things that I see happening in my practice. I see young women, late 20s, early 30s, coming in with perimenopause symptoms."
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, well, there's probably nothing to do with the hormones that's in the foods and the water they drink, but okay. And the second thing, she goes, she's like, there's a lot of women who are coming in with a lot of adverse effects associated with menopause, like hot flash severity, like cognitive fog, like weight gain, all these other things. Is there anything we can do to get ahead of that before it shows up? So we developed this menopause biotype test. It looks at all the different markers that are associated with menopause and the adverse effects of menopause. Also looks to see if they're a good candidate for hormone optimization or hormone replacement therapy, sees what type of metabolizer they are of those hormones, estrogen, testosterone, etc. So she can create a treatment plan using our platform that's specific to the individual by optimizing their hormones, by creating personalized supplementation and things that will prevent the expression of some of those genes. Or if somebody's already, and I had all these guys would call me up like, man, you saved my marriage. Now I can sleep in the same bed with my wife or my girlfriend, whatever, because it's a serious thing. And if we can get ahead of that and help to mitigate that or change the expression, it actually helps a lot of people. We do that on the male end. We have menopause too, andropause. So where our hormone levels change, etc. So what can we do to get ahead of that one? We can optimize our own hormones, create other things that can actually be precursors to help us create more of our own testosterone, not just replace it, and then make sure we mitigate or shut down the expression of other, because your body's interesting, because as you start adding, your body starts adding something else. It's always looking to create homeostasis. That's where the endocannabinoid system comes in play, which people don't even understand that there is a system like that. But that's what its job is, to maintain homeostasis. So your brain is always like, well, wait a second. You're endogenously creating more testosterone. So now we have to balance that out with more estrogen. So now you're walking around with boobs and you're lactating. And I've seen a lot of bodybuilders back in the day start, doing that stuff and growing weird hair, and all that. So it's just interesting how if we ride the wave with our own bodies, and it's smooth, right? Like you can surf that wave perfectly. You add a little bit here, you subtract a little bit here. And drugs are always this whole thing of we're nominating and designating something as a drug, but something is a medicine. Well, most of those things came from medicine. I was talking to
Heroin was made by Merck, right?
Exactly.
To make you feel heroic.
I was talking to this group who had this retreat, and they work with cocoa, with the plant from cocaine, right?
Yeah, the leaves.
The leaves. And it's a whole different experience because you have metabolites and you have all these different things that are associated with it. But even how it works, it's designated as a Schedule II. Because we use it in medicine for certain things. We used to drink it in Coca-Cola, but okay, now it's medicine. But I was trying to say, you're making the determination based on, because pharmaceutical industry said, well, we need to create a isolated molecule and synthesize it and then use it. And I was saying, well, I don't think people understand the way cocaine works. Everybody thinks it's the substance, but it has to do with their own chemistry. So I said, when you consume cocaine, it binds to your dopamine receptor, squirts like 100 times more dopamine than normally would produce, and blocks the reuptake. So you're getting this huge dopamine rush, and all of a sudden it goes away, and your brain says, wait a second, I can conserve energy. I don't have to create my own dopamine. This is good. I love it. Let me send a signal for more of that. So it's not the cocaine's the ligand, it's the dopamine that we're addicted to, which is our own neurochemistry. So classifying these things, it doesn't make any sense because when we're synthesizing in cannabis, they synthesized THC, created marinol. Well, it doesn't work the same way that cannabis does because it has all other components that work with individuals, not just one isolated THC. A very narrow therapeutic window for THC, and it has other, benefits to that. But it's not the THC; it's the anandamide that's being secreted into your bloodstream. That's our bliss hormone or molecule. That's really what's happening in our bodies. That's just a source to excrete.
Acupuncture produces that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're speaking about the entourage effect in a lot of ways, and it's very funny because, I think with a nod to Chinese herbal medicine, they understood that, right? We either need to use the whole plant, or we need to use these parts in these specific ways, right? And it wasn't like when we give a drug now, where it's like, oh, you got high blood pressure, take this. Okay, when do I come off of it? Oh, you don't. It's
you're in for life, man.
This is it.
You're
come get
on
it every
lifetime subscription to prescription medication. That's the model. But Chinese, they have a name called Ma for cannabis, for hemp.
Yeah.
For 3,000 years they've been using it.
5,000. Shen Nong wrote the Materia Medica.
Exactly.
And he was called the Divine Farmer, often depicted with horns or with a bronze skull. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
But he wrote 2 books, one on farming, one on medicine. He listed cannabis in both. He talked about how to cultivate it for paper and textile and those kind of things. And then in the medicinal book, he knew it was the female plants. He knew we still use the seeds as a moist laxative, is what we call it. They say they moisten the intestines, but yeah.
So it's just amazing. There's probably 10 cures for cancer in the Amazon alone. If we go out and get these plants and these herbs, because most of them came from plant medicine anyway. And when Big Pharma gets a hold of them, they're synthesizing. That's why cannabis, I think they're having such a hard time because, with psilocybin, for instance, and I'm going off on a tangent.
Yeah, we're following you, man.
You have a single molecule of psilocin. So you can conduct studies and you can study a molecule. It's within their...
Most importantly, you can patent.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the U.S. government already has a patent on cannabis, multiple ones. So, but when you're using a plant that has over 400 different components in it, how do you formulate it? It blows their mind. They're having a hard time getting their brains around that. So at some point they will. I mean, we have Epidiolex now. That's the first FDA approved drug for childhood epilepsy. Sativex didn't pass phase 3, but it's in a different form in Europe. Jazz Pharmaceutical acquired, what's the name of the company that created Epidiolex? GW Pharmaceuticals. They acquired them for $9.4 billion. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with the pipeline of drugs that it will be developing. So I think there's a light at the end of this tunnel, but the alignment of insurance, traditional medicine, all that other stuff, like we have to do better. And food, absolutely agree with you, Ty. I mean, this is where we can take better control. Like we're very dependent on people telling us what to do, but it should be a much more collaborative experience to work with your healthcare professional. I did my genome. You have it. I have it. We both share in our treatment protocol, and we should have accountability for those healthcare professionals the way they account us. We should have accountability for them. This is a partnership in my own health and wellness journey. We have, we check off things that we've completed. You didn't do that? Oh, doctor, you didn't do that? This is a collaborative experience. And if we can do that, we'll be able to save more money, prevent a lot of more diseases, have less of a burden on the healthcare system. And, really, I think, Matt, you were saying longevity, really increase your health span. because people don't want to live the last 20 years of their lives, being sick.
Yeah. And I think that we were talking about this the other day off air, but Tom and I were like, I feel like compared to some other people my own age right now, I'm almost 50 and like everyone is starting to kind of, the signs are starting to show. And I'm like,
different.
yeah. And I'm like, you know what? It's not like we're 68, right? Like, I mean, so there's still some youth left in the tank, but not a lot. And I feel like it's these little things that we all do, like these little curiosities that turn into habits that are just better. I mean, they add up, right? And so like when I look at my trajectory for the rest of my life, the only thing that interests me at all is really now saying, okay, stakes are higher now. We're in the back nine, not the front nine, right? Like, so let's start taking extraordinary measures. You know what I mean? Just because like, I don't want, to your point, I don't want to be 90 if I'm in a wheelchair with a hunch, like that doesn't sound fun,
Well, now we can even start earlier. So you're reacting to your mortality. So I'll be 53 in May. When I did my biological age, which I actually, between us here, nobody else listening, right? Just us.
No, nobody.
I think
we
it's a
don't.
little.
Matt's wife tunes in every once in a while, but normally at the 40 mark, she drops off.
It's kind of bullshit. I'll tell you why. And we do it too, but it's kind of bullshit. So my biological age is 47. My goal is to be at 40. And I'll tell you why I think it's bullshit. Your biological age, it will not be bullshit in the very near future. So it's okay. But my biological age at 47 or whatever it may be, my liver could be 85. My kidneys could be a different age. My heart can be a different age. My endocrine system can be a different age. So it's really hard to gauge, but at the very least, I'll go with it because it's lower than what I am. If it was 65 biologically,
you'd be worried,
then I'd be calling bullshit on it the whole time. But the idea is, as we start, new generations come up. We as parents, I don't know if you guys are parents. We as parents, we can motivate our kids, teach them how to do that, and then start working. So we don't have to be reactive at 50. We can start doing this early in our lives.
What's really funny about that? My kids think I'm a crazy person. And and it's funny because like we had this whole conversation about seed oil with them, right? We had a really in-depth conversation about seed oil the other day. And it got me thinking, like I went in after the show and I was like, they always ask like, how was it, and I'm downstairs talking to them. And I said, and I had cut it out because I had done their protocol last year. And so I had already kind of largely cut seed oils out based on something that happened last year. But I was like reinvigorated by the knowledge that this is the better decision. And I was like, hey guys, look, it's an easy thing. Use ghee. You don't have to use this, oil. And they're like, yeah, this tastes better. You're nuts. Like now maybe it's just because they're teenagers.
Isn't that the best medicine right there? It tastes better and it's better for you.
No. Yeah. But they're saying like their other shit
seed oil is better.
Exactly.
The seed oil stuff. Oh, well, yeah, but I mean, that's all fucking with brain chemistry too, right?
No, exactly. And I don't even get me started on the conversation about their fMRIs being the same as a heroin addict as when they're playing on their iPhones. Like that conversation went well.
Like I'll tell you what I do with my daughter. I and her mom is the same way. We educate and we live by example. She's still gonna get her Chick-fil-A. She's still gonna eat her stuff, but she at least knows. And where I think I know that we did something right, when I hear her talking to her friends and I hear motivating and telling her friends, well, this is this, and I hear me and she's repeating what I said. And I'm like, man, it's sunk in. You don't have to practice all the time, but and she's trying and she's using some of that, but she's in college.
Well, that's good.
So.
That's cool to hear, actually. Yeah. That's fantastic.
As long as something sticks in, right? Because I feel like a lot of us, around our age, it's like, what are you going to do at lunch? Oh, we're going to go get Taco Bell. Why? It's right down the road. Yeah, it's easy. It's quick. It's 59, 69, 79 or whatever it was back in the day.
Yeah, I think that there's a combination of two things. The first one is, I'm not a political person, so this is politics aside, but just RFK in the role of being able to possibly make changes legislatively on the chemicals that is added to our quote unquote food, that's one thing. And I'm not a big government person, but at the very least, we have to control the poison that's illegal everywhere else, but it's legal
I know.
here that we're putting in our bodies. And then the next thing is, we have to do a better job with the things that we can control. So we can control what we eat. We can control our exercise. We can control our breathing, like exposure to different things. And then the other things, are outside of our control. So at the very least, we'll do good with the things that we can control and hopefully let the other ones run their course.
And I love the way you phrase that, because I think a lot of times when, some of my friends who think I'm like fringy in the health and wellness space, when we're in conversations, like it's always this like zero sum game, right? That's like, okay, you either are like vegan, fucking, barefoot in the summer, like running around, or you're dying because you're just wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay, well, but that's how this conversation gets these days, right? You have two sides and that's it. There's nothing.
Yeah, if you don't polarize it, no one's going to listen to you.
So it makes it very hard to have an interesting conversation with people, because if they're not on your wavelength, they're on an opposite wavelength. There's no room for, and that thing, I think that gets in people's way of discovering that this is even possible. Like I'll bet you if we walk down the street of New York City and asked 1,000 people, what percentage you think would say that they understood personalized medicine, even heard of it, rather? I mean, like it's like
New York City,
even
New York City's
there,
a bad example, I guess.
No, but even there, I would say that the average person that's just trying to get along, you're lucky if they're hitting up their doctor yearly for a physical. Right? What am I going to do? I'm going to grab this on the way onto the train to get where I need to go. But I do think, Matt, you're really onto something with that polarization, because like even, so we had the healthy, happy guys on, or healthy guys. Sorry, Rob. Sorry, Randy. And they were talking about Steak and Shake, and they're like, oh, look, they use beef tallow for their fries. And that externally, for somebody that eats meat, sounds great. And I hear people screaming, oh my God, they're using beef tallow. All the vegans can't eat there now. And it's like, it's literally, the first word is steak. But then Randy and Rob are going like, dude, they're not using pure tallow. They're cutting it with seed oil because it's cheaper. So you have somebody that you would appear to have on the opposite side of the vegan saying the same thing, but for different reasons. No, we hate it because they're giving you misinformation versus I can't eat there anymore.
I think we're in an environment where everybody's polarized. We have this, divide in the middle of everything. I live in LA, but I'm from Philly, which is kind of an interesting juxtaposition, because if I'm in Philly,
I was thinking about that earlier. I'm like, what a great combination.
Yeah, like, I've had people that wanted me to move out that way. I'm like, no, I'll fucking fight everybody and I'll lose.
It's different here, because I'll give you a couple examples of that. But if I'm in Philly and I'm having this conversation with people like, you're fruity, you're this, you're that, who gives a shit, let's go get a cheesesteak. In LA, it's like, this is an acceptable thing. We microdose instead of having a red wine, and everybody's doing yoga and all this other stuff. There's a middle ground, and the middle ground is do what you want to do for yourself, but just be open-minded enough to learn and educate yourself. You don't want to do something? Who gives a shit? I haven't eaten meat in 16 years. I eat fish. I don't care if you eat meat. It doesn't matter to me. Everybody in my family eats meat. My daughter eats meat. I choose not to, and that's my choice. But I don't sit there and preach to somebody else that they shouldn't do that either. If they ask me why, I'll explain to them that I don't like antibiotics in my food. I don't like hormones in my food. I choose not to do that. I don't like the way meat metabolizes in my body. You don't have to do it, but if you ask me, I'll tell you. And that's sort of the difference. And unfortunately, people talk about race and religion and all this other stuff. But if you really start looking underneath the hood, we have a caste system in this country, and that is related to our healthcare as well. And it has to do by financial means. So if I'm walking up to the average construction worker in New York, He'd be like, yo, what the fuck, doesn't they don't know about a DEXA scan. They're not going to go and pay money for that. It's not covered by my insurance. They're not going to do my full body scan to see, what cancers I'm predisposed to, because it costs $2,200 out of pocket. My test costs $200. No, my insurance doesn't cover it. You're not going to do that. So at some point, that's the bigger divide too, because we have a healthcare system that, I was talking to my Canadian friends, like, well, we have socialized medicine. They're like, no, it's bullshit. Because it's a guy who sits on our board, he can afford medicine and doesn't have to wait in line for socialized medicine. So guess what? He pays for medicine and gets way better medicine than everybody else.
Well, we were just talking about this. I took the Galleri test, the Grail test last year. And I was like, why isn't this on every fucking physical, like, just default? They're like, well, it hasn't gotten out of phase 3 yet. And I'm like, who the fuck cares? Like, there's more than enough evidence to support the accuracy of these people. This shit's legit. And they're like, and it is. Even in the trials, they're expected to get through it fine. But like, I'm like sitting there going, we are fucked up if this is not part of every single human's physical ever. Because it would save, I think, trillions of dollars at a global scale if everybody had this test, because you can cut this shit off. Let's just assume for a second, and just to call back to the RFK statement real quick. I agree with you. Most of everything you said is exactly right. But my only failure is in the belief in the human population that would actually do those things. Like, one of the things he said was, why couldn't the doctor prescribe me a gym membership? I'm like, because a GLP-1's faster, and it's just and it's super
and they're
cheap.
Making more and they're incentivized to give you that GLP-1, even if they don't have a drug rep showing up.
Yeah,
the patients are asking for it. They don't want to do the work.
People are lazy. Funny though? We're preaching of comfort. They're lazy. I understand.
No, of course, but along those lines, if you think people's lifestyles won't auto correct, then at a very minimum, you should be able to have, like, the Galleri test exists, 57 of cancers, I think it tests for, that you can find out basically at stage 1, pre-stage 1, if there is such a thing. Like, basically, as soon as that cell starts to divide, we could pick it up on the Grail test. And guess what? That at least adjusts for that behavior toggle that they're not going to pull on their own, right? Like, so at a minimum, this is super helpful, right? I mean,
no, I completely agree with you. Screening, the more you learn about yourself, the better. But go along with this whole GLP-1 thing. Look, we're creatures of comfort and always try to take the easy way out. However, we have to look at history. Whenever there's somebody says there's a pill for that, wait and see what happened in 5 or 10 years of people taking Dexatrim or anything else that was an easy way out. You look at the GLP-1 studies now. First of all, you can see what Ozempic face looks like. It's all over LA. You know the people that are on it. Number one. Number two, look at their DEXA scans. Look at the bone density. Look at the muscle mass that they're losing. So you normally would lose fat, water weight, but now with Ozempic, you're actually losing muscle mass and you're creating brittle bone syndrome, especially if you're genetically predisposed to it. You ask doctors how many older patients they have right now that are on Ozempic that are falling and breaking bones. A lot.
Wow.
Because that's
it's funny. They don't lead with that headline on.
No. And also, like, I hate to say it, chances are they're taking it because they're already heavy.
Yeah. Right.
And as they're falling, it's probably a worse fall than the average person.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I think if you can use this is where the psychology comes into place, right? So your doctor, or you have to see somebody who's also working with the head and the body. Because if I was in that position, you need something to accelerate that. GLP-1, I now see progress, right? Now I see that I'm losing weight. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the gym. Now I'm going to motivate myself to go to the gym. Now I'm going to change my eating habits, and I'm going to do that. It's the same people that got the lab band surgery. And then they ate their way out of bursting through the band.
The band didn't work.
You don't change your lifestyle. You don't change your lifestyle. It's the easy thing. You have to combine that with lifestyle changes as well.
But you're also more motivated. I mean, I'll even tell you when I was doing this metabolic thing with the guys we've been referencing on the show, like week 1, I was down like 6 pounds. Week 2, I was like a man on fire. I'm like, I'm possessed. I'm like, there's nothing going to stop me now. And then week 2, I'm down 10, 12 pounds or something like that. And I'm like, and then week 3, I'm like, it's like a force multiplier, right? Like that reward, is kicking off the dopamine there too for me. I'm like, dude, I love this. Let's go. And but again, people aren't going to get to that point easily. That's the thing where I'm like, we got to like figure that problem out.
You got to find your flow state. And I think this is where it becomes extremely important to understand and do some self-discovery. And you got to find out what type of things that motivate you, that secrete the most neurochemicals that are personalized to you. So when you're finding your flow state, your flow state is where, the basketball player is shooting buckets, where it looks like a swimming pool for them, because every single one of the neurochemicals is firing at the exact amount they need to. So if you're figuring out what that is and you want to find exercise that is specific to you, then find that what is aligned with your flow state. Some people love the treadmill. Okay, does it give you dopamine? Do you do it just because you have to do it? Or do you do it because you really enjoy it? Well, maybe instead of that, and I know I'm privileged because I live in LA, but instead of going on my treadmill, why don't I go on a hike instead and walk in nature, do the same exact thing, give myself that hour walk and breathe in clean air, and I guarantee you that'll motivate you. So gym, I don't love going to the gym. I go to the gym 3-4 times a week. I don't love it. I never loved working out, but I do because I have to. So I create a reward system for myself. I love the sauna. Love this since a little kid. So in my mind, I'm like, fuck, it's cold, but it's LA cold.
Yeah.
It's 58 degrees. Oh shit,
yeah.
I gotta wear a hoodie to go outside.
58 degrees in my room right now.
Yeah.
So I go to the gym and I convince myself that after I work out, and I'm blanking my workout, but I get to go and sit in the hot sauna and enjoy that. So these are the things that you have to do for yourself to keep you motivated.
Yeah, we're coming out of winter here in Baltimore. So it was 58 here, and people were in shorts.
I'm in shorts right now, man. I was ready to go.
Everyone's like, it is so hot. I can't even tell you.
It's the funniest way. When I talk, my parents still live in Philly. Now in the wintertime, they're in Florida, but they live in Philly. So I remember like a year or 2 years ago, it was January, and it was freezing in LA. Freezing. It was 60 degrees.
Yeah,
I was wearing a jacket. I was wearing a beanie, and I'm talking to my parents, and I'm like, what's the weather? I'm like, it's freezing. I think I had a scarf on, and we were FaceTiming, and my parents are like, look, there are kids outside in shorts and t-shirt. I would say, what's the weather? 60 degrees. It's 60 in Philly, 60 here, but we're treating it completely differently.
That's so funny.
It's always funny as the seasons change too, because if we were coming out of summer and it was this, we'd all be bundled up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. If this was September, I'd be like, yeah, I was wearing my triple fat goose. I'd be like fucking completely bundled up. Hey, Len, man, I want to talk to you literally for the rest of the week, but we gotta like wrap it up at some point. Otherwise we will be here all night. So I honestly, I don't even know where to start with asking, like, where do we want to send people to like learn more about you? I mean, let's just start there.
Well, so my website is EndoDNA. That's my company website, EndoDNA.com. I also do one-on-one coaching with people if they want to go do their DNA results and, talk to me and doctors that work with me. That's Len May, LenMay coaching.com. So that's, and then I have a book called Making Cannabis Personal. It's right here. And that one you can get that on Amazon. It has some personal stories, and then talks about people and their stories. And, it's got some pictures of me with hair if anybody wants to see.
Yeah, that's funny.
And two things, my top recommended album list and my top recommended book list. So that's in there.
You know what? I almost asked you because I'm like, look, you're a guy who might have an answer for this canned. Best album, meaning all songs start, you can play them in any order. It doesn't matter, but every song's a winner in your mind. Go.
I mean, a ton. Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 1,
see?
Soundgarden, Bad Motor Finger, I would say check
Those
your
couple
head.
years
Beastie
do make a
Boys.
big difference, man. I love all those things
Check
you
Your
just
Head
said,
was
but
amazing too. Yeah.
I love all those bands, but like they were kind of like a half a step in front of me. You know, we're not that far off. I'm 48. You said you're 52. It's
Well,
not that big a deal.
Look, Alice in Chains. I think if you put on either Jar of Flies or Sap, or even Dirt, fantastic. As I said, any like Pearl Jam 10, but you have other albums. Rage Against the Machine, the very first one.
Oh, I know. There's so many
Amy
good ones.
Winehouse's album here.
But Rage Against the Machine, I don't know. Like that's just to pick that one out of the ether here with you. Like I'm not sure. I agree with you. There's a couple standout songs on, but not like every single one. Like Appetite for Destruction. Come on, let's be candid.
It's
like
up there.
every
It's
fucking
actually up there.
yeah, every song on that album is perfect in my mind, start to stop.
Appetite for Destruction is there. I have Paul's Boutique there.
Paul's Boutique is amazing too.
Paul's Boutique is also
Songs
really
in the
good.
Key of Life. I have Stevie Wonder. That's a fantastic album.
I love that you had like 50 answers to that. That's perfect.
But they're all over
amazing.
the place because you know he's got Metallica 1 back there too.
Yeah, Metallica 1 back
so
there.
I'm a music guy. Like I listen to everything, and because I was a music buyer for Tower Records, I can listen to a John Coltrane Giant Steps and put like I don't know, Slipknot on afterwards, and then listen to some Iron Maiden and Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory. So it's
you wouldn't happen to be going to Birmingham, will you, to see Ozzy say goodbye?
I'm not, and I have a very close relationship with Ozzy, but I'm not even sure he's going to be playing, and I don't want to ruin anybody. But this is my. Ozzy rode this.
Wow, he had it in arm's reach too, man.
Yeah, he had it like sitting right there. He's like, "Here you go."
It was like, let me talk about this for a second.
To Len, I hope you enjoy this box set. Much respect, Ozzy. So
I love it.
Oh man,
he's pretty sick. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, that's a shame.
And he's got Parkinson's, and you know, I haven't seen him about a year, give or take. So. There may be a miracle that happened where he's much better.
But that's a shame.
Look, they did the same thing with Power Trip. You know, I don't know if you guys know Power Trip. It was a Coachella for rock people. So there was a first one called Desert Trip, which was like old people's Coachella. They had like Who, Paul McCartney.
See, I'd still go.
Yeah, I'd go.
It was great. They had Roger Waters was there. All these Bob Dylan, who's not good, but and Neil Young. But this time they had Power Trip, and Ozzy was supposed to play, and it was a heavy metal festival. So 3 days. There was who was Metallica, AC/DC. Judas Priest. So Ozzy was supposed to play and he bailed. Judas Priest took over for him. Iron Maiden, Tool.
Oh, wow. That must have been a hell of a show.
Yeah, man, it was fantastic.
That sounds
once
amazing.
Again, they sold tickets with Ozzy and then he bailed and Judas Priest sat in.
Well, it's kind of hard to have somebody fill in for for him in that particular venue, right? I mean, I know Anthrax and a bunch of other Pantera, I think, is going there, and like it's a bunch of really cool bands. Actually, I'm really bummed I can't go, but these tickets sold out in like 5.5 seconds.
Yeah, I know. We were in line on Ticketmaster. We were like 15,000.
Yeah. You're like
people in front of us. Like, we're not getting tickets.
Yeah, we will never get tickets to this. But
you know, it was great back in the day. You could call a Ticketmaster in a different part of town, or my friend got us Pulse tickets for Pink Floyd, right? Yeah. You know, back when they had the little LED on the CD. And he called upstate. He called Oswego's Ticketmaster, and he got us floor tickets.
Wow!
At Giant Stadium, and it was fucking insane.
Oh yeah, it was great. I worked at Tower Records, and we had a Ticketmaster in Tower Records. So plus, I knew the label. So Pink Floyd, I had like second row seats for that. It was the greatest. The disco ball that opened up that
Crashed
spaceship.
The plane. They had the pigs. Oh my god,
it's great.
That's amazing.
Their encore was Dark Side of the Moon. And then they came out and did a second encore.
So my very first concert ever was at JFK Stadium that no longer exists in Philly. for Pink Floyd, the very first time that they got
Oh, wow.
back to Momentary Lapse of Reason, I think it was.
Oh my God, that's such a great album, man.
Yeah,
With
really.
my dad and his brother and my two friends. So that was the first concert my dad ever took me to. I went to like little shows here and there, and that was the last concert. He hated it. He said, never again. I never went to a show with my dad ever after that.
My dad took me to see Ozzy No More Tears concert at, what's the one in the Garden? Not the Garden, the other one.
MSG? No.
Paramount. What's there's a smaller theater part like underneath or next to MSG, but it's not the stadium. It's like just a stage. And he played there. My dad was literally reading a newspaper with earplugs in, sitting down while I'm losing my mind that Ozzy's up there just absolutely killing it. And my dad, like, to this day is like, yeah, it was really loud. Yeah, it's fine.
Max, what's your album that every single song is great?
It's Appetite for me. It's Violent Femmes, or it's August and Everything After. It's kind of
all three are great.
Yeah, I can't get enough of any one of those albums. I could listen to them on repeat.
So do you have the Appetite that has the original cover or the cover that they sold in the stores?
So in the tape, I believe I had the original, but I never, I don't know, because I got the CD like really quickly, and that definitely was the new one. So like and I don't know what happened to the tape. Honestly, I lost like a whole, remember those zip up containers with like 2 sides and 3 rows or something?
I had like 6th grade.
I had tons of those. I buy that? Yeah, and I lost one of them, and Appetite was in there, but it didn't matter because I had them all on CD again anyway. But
cool, yeah.
The guy who turned me on to that album had the vinyl press of Appetite, and it was the original. Yeah.
So I have it. It's on my wall. So on my wall in my room, I have. And I change them around, but it's on my wall.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, yeah, and so anyway, it's music is always a cool big part of my life, and it was funny to see you with analysis, and in particular, I have a very fond memory of about 6 feet away from Lane Stanley, like while he's at Lollapalooza, like I don't know, 96 maybe.
Yeah, I was there.
Byram, New Jersey.
Yeah, I was the one in Philly. I went to the first 3.
Okay. And we didn't pay for a ticket. We scaled like this, felt like a 100-foot fence. It was probably 10 feet. We all jumped over. A couple of my friends got caught. I didn't. And me and this other kid didn't. And we just elbowed our way at set break up to the front. And I'm like, dear life, grabbing onto the barricades, and Lane Stanley's kneeling down singing. I'm like, oh my God, I could die right now and be fine.
Well, I just saw Jerry Cantrell. What's the one last week? I saw Jerry Cantrell. He's got a new album out. It's called I Want Blood. It's great. It sounds just like Alice in Chains. The guy that's singing Lane's parts, like all his harmonies, even the old stuff they sing, he sounds like a little like Lane. So new album's great.
I cannot wait to hear that. Then I'm going to look that up.
I Want Blood.
I thought, it's funny. I stopped following him because they all kind of fell out of the vernacular, and like, I'm kind of too busy. I'm out of sight, out of mind for some stuff. I'll still find time for Appetite, but like if Guns N' Roses came out with a new album right now, I'm not really sure I'd be like standing in line. You know what I'm saying?
I saw a photo where they said Axl Rose and who was it? Axl Rose was sitting next to somebody else, and they said they look like a lesbian couple back from like antiquing or something.
I just saw Axl Rose. So Duff put out a new album, and he performed. His daughter opened for him. She's
amazing.
Actually pretty good, yeah. And then Axl came to see Duff do his solo project, so I just saw him.
That's cool.
Oh, that's funny. You know what's fun? I saw Guns N' Roses in Philly.
Stop, man. This is
the last time I saw Guns N' Roses was in Philly, actually, and I'm watching them, and Axl Rose running around singing "Welcome to the Jungle." He's like in the back, reportedly taking oxygen. Meanwhile, and he sounds like shit. Then he plays at the piano and like absolutely kills November Rain. I'm like, dude, you're like 100. Sit your ass down and fucking kill it like you can do when you're not running around, which is well outside of your comfort zone at this point. Let's be honest.
It depends, man. They were a power trip too, and it depends. So some nights, I don't think he can perform multiple nights back to back. But some nights he's better than others, so you never know where you get him. Sometimes
you never know.
Great.
It's a mixed bag of Axl Rose, huh?
Exactly.
So, all right, Len, man, thank you so much for coming.
Len, this is a great time, man.
Appreciate you, and talk to you guys soon.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.